Hello again. This is going to be another EdgeRouter video. In this particular video, I'm going to try to set up a dual wide area network configuration. I go to this site, this Ubiquiti support site a lot, and go down to the EdgeRouter forum. And I notice that there's a lot of people out there that actually have some type of dual wide area network setup. And it's something that I've never had to deal with or look at. So in this video, I'm just going to see if I can configure one up. I go to this site when I can to try to help out if I can. Somebody's having a problem. But I do happen to see a lot of dual wide area network configurations. So let's just go ahead and jump into this thing, see what I'm going to try to do. And some of you who may know how to do this may very well already know that what I'm going to try to do may not work. I don't know whether this is going to work or not, but I think it will. I think I should be able to route stuff the way I need to route it. So this is going to be the configuration. I've got my EdgeRouter X SFP, and I've got a pfSense simulator, so I'm simulating the internet. I've got a bunch of IP addresses up here that are going to be virtual. Two of them are virtual IP addresses, and one is the primary IP address for the pfSense box. But mostly, I'm gonna route very few, maybe RDP sessions through here into the EdgeRouter. This is where the main configuration is going to be taking place. All right, so yeah, a lot of information on this one, so I had to actually print this out so I could actually put the information in. So let's just go ahead and jump into my EdgeRouter configuration. Alright, so this is kind of where I left it off last time. I'm definitely on an EdgeRouter X SFP, and I'm just going to run through this real quick. I'm going to do a wizard. Going to pick the WAN 2 LAN 2. So for Ethernet 0, I want that address to be 10.10.10.2 with a subnet mask at 24. Gateway is going to be 10.10.10.1. DNS server is fine. The one I use on my outside. So in this particular case, I'm going to use more than just one LAN. I'm actually going to make this a WAN port, but that's beside the point. Alright, so let's see if I can configure this guy. I don't want the DHCP server, so let's set this one up as 10.10.20.2. And that is correct. Alright, and so the rest of these ports are on the switch. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. Alright, so on the switch side for Ethernet 2, which is where I'm going to connect one of my workstations to, I want to make this 10.10.1.1. Alright, I haven't plugged in Ethernet. I haven't plugged in my adapter for Ethernet 5 yet, so I'll do that in a little bit. So let me just go ahead and Alright, let me just double check my configuration again. Okay, so this is going to be wide area network 1. This is going to be wide area network 2. This is going to be internal network 1. And then I'm going to set up ETH5 later on once this is set. So let's just go ahead and apply changes and reboot. Yes, I'm sure. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and just pause this video real quick. I got to make some changes so that I can connect to this thing. and on the other side, and I'll be back in just a minute. Alright, I think I got that all straight. Alright, let's just take a look at the drawing real quick again. Okay, so this is my setup. This is where my EdgeRouter is set. And let's go ahead and log into my EdgeRouter real quick. Alright, so I've got Wide Area Network 1, Wide Area Network 2, and I've got my switch, and I've got my IP address for my switch. Now ETH interface 5, Ethernet 5 has not been set up yet, so I'm going to set that up here in just a little bit. I've got an adapter for the SPF interface, and I'm going to set that up in a minute, but I just wanted to quickly touch base and go over and show you the firewall rule that allowed me to be able to remote control into this, to do the to be able to get into the GUI. So I just did allow access to GUI. So I just went into the Wide Area Network local rule set, TCP, accept, destination, put the different ports that I wanted to be able to gain access to. So that's what I had to do after I set up my initial setup. So that's all I've done. I've basically walked you guys through the wizard setup, and then I just went in here and changed this one rule. I had already had all the stuff that I needed to forward traffic through my pfSense box to these. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video for now and continue the setup, and then I'll come back and let you guys know what I've done. So thanks. Alright, looks like I'm back. So I went ahead and set up my RDP connections to my two workstations here on the back side of the EdgeRouter X. So I'm able to RDP from Win10 Test 4 all the way through my pfSense router through the EdgeRouter to each one of these boxes. Let me show you how I did that real quick. So it looks like I'm able to manage network connections on either side of the dual wide area network connection. So what I did was I went ahead and I added my adapter for Ethernet 5, and I went ahead and set up the address 10.10.2.1. So this is one of my internals, and then the switch, which has a connection on Ethernet 2, is my other internal IP address. And then the two externals are here. I should probably label these, but it doesn't really matter at this point in time. Alright, so I went over here to Firewall NAT, one of my firewall policies, and I went ahead and I applied the, if you'll notice here where it says Wide Area Network in and the interfaces, I added ETH1 in on this rule set, and then I added ETH1 local on this rule set, just so I could make them identical. So these two are identical. So then the next thing I did was I wanted to set up RDP, so I needed to set up a couple of destination NATs. So the first thing I did was I set up a couple of extra virtual IPs on the Wide Area Network external side. Got one at 10.10.10.6 and one at 10.10.10 or 10.10.24. And these particular connections are dedicated to the RDP sessions to the workstations that are behind. So let's take a look at that picture again. I added an IP address here and an IP address here, and that's how I'm routing traffic through here to those IP addresses, and then I'm routing it from there into the inside for both of those connections. So I added the IP addresses here. I went back over to Firewall NAT. I went into NAT, and I added my destination NAT rules for each one. Again, we're listening on those ports, and then we're translating to these particular internal ports, which are the two workstations on the inside. So then you have to go back over to Firewall Policies, and on the Wide Area Network in, I created two rules, one for each one for Win10 Test 3 and Win10 Test 2, and the IP addresses for those particular rules. So this is just to allow RDP in. So So I'm able to actually RDP into those boxes. So the external IP address is going to be 236 and 237 respectively. I'll hit 236 real quick just to show you. So this shows you that I'm on Win 10-TST2, and the internal IP address is 10.10.1.28. So I've successfully RDP'd, I've successfully routed traffic to that destination. So right now, basically, I've got two independent dual wide area network scenarios set up, and I can route traffic on either one, either way. Now, my understanding is probably if I get on this box over here and I go outbound, I'm pretty sure that traffic is probably going to get routed out of Ethernet 0. And the reason why I say that is because I think there's only one. Excuse me, I haven't done anything yet with this configuration as far as routing. So I've only got one path that goes externally. You know, as you can see, the box has no idea what a 192.168 address is. All it knows, it just knows how to route to this network segment, either one of these. And actually, in this case, it's only for this network segment. So when you see 0000, that's saying that take this path and go out through 10.10.10.1, and then it'll know what to do with the traffic from there because it doesn't know anything about 192. So if I were to send something out to a 192.168 address, it's going to have to go through this destination. And you can see the next hop. I don't have one for 10.10.20.1. So I'm going to have to add a static IP address for that and to see how exactly that works. So I think this is another good point where I'm just going to go ahead and pause the video and see what I can find, and then I'll get back to you. Thanks. Okay, just to follow up on the last time I paused this video, I'm going to pass some traffic now over the interfaces and see how everything works. I think the last time we were talking, I was talking about routing and how routing works, or how routing was, how I thought it was going to go. So since then I've verified that, but I just want to touch base real quick on what I found. Look at the picture again. So I'm going to go ahead and start here, and I'm going to do a ping out to this 192.168 address. It obviously is going to go through Ethernet 2, through Ethernet 0, and then out, based on the way the routing is set up. And I'm going to, on the pfSense box, I'm going to go ahead and set up a packet capture so I can actually capture that traffic, and we can see it as it goes through. So, as you can see, 10.10.10.1 is on LAN 1 on my PFC box. We go over to diagnostics. We're going to hit packet capture. I'm going to hit LAN 1. Protocol I want just to do ping, and just hit start. So I've got some RDP sessions already in place. And this is Win Test 2. Just to double check real quick. Win Test 2 is when we're going to do our first ping. And let's just go ahead and ping. So I'm going to ping the my farthest external router before I actually go out to the internet. And obviously it looks like I got good responses back. So let's go take a look at that traffic real quick. Okay, so you can see where I've got a request and a response and a request and a reply, request, reply. So as far as this box is concerned, when you're looking at this, obviously, as far as this port is concerned, these pings are coming from 10.10.10.2, not from 10.10.1.28. And you can see that here, 10.10.10.2 to 192.168.1.1. So that's good traffic. That's what we would want to see. Let's go ahead and hit start again. Now I'm going to ping from the other side. So again, this is from WinTest 3. And again, like I said before I paused this video last time, that I believe that this traffic should also be routed through Ethernet 0. So I would expect it to, even though I'm coming from this box over here, I would expect it to come out of 10.10.10.2 to 10.10.10 to 192.168.1.1. So go back over to packet capture, hit stop, and sure enough, 10.10.10.2 instead of 10.10.20.2. It's actually 10.10.10.2. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I'm pretty sure the reason why that is, actually I'm almost positive, is number one, when you go over to routing, if you'll notice, we only have one static route. So again, this box doesn't know anything about the 192 subnet. It just knows that if it's not in one of the routes that it knows about, it's going to send that traffic to its next hop, which is 10.10.10.1. And so what I found interesting was I said, okay, well, I want to try to route traffic through the 10.10.20 interface or network segment. So if I go over to static route and I add a static route and I try to put this in, I get an error message. So you may have to pause this video after I hit save to see the error message, as it just kind of comes and goes. But I'll just hit save. And it's going to work on it. And I'm going to get this cannot combine system gateway and static default route. So it doesn't like that fact that I picked a gateway. So that didn't work at all. So that means that I can't really route traffic out the 10.10.20.2 interface, the ETH1, to the outside world. Now I can route traffic. This is kind of interesting as well. I'll show you guys this real quick. So let's go ahead and set up. So now I'm going to capture on my LAN 2 address. And again, LAN 2 is the 10.10.20. So we'll hit start. Alright, so I'm on Win 10 TST3. I don't think it really matters, but so I'm going to hit the 10.10.20.1, which is the pfSense input. And I'm trying to ping, and I'm trying to ping, and I'm trying to ping. Alright, so one thing I want you to note is where my IP address of this workstation is 10.10.2.24. Alright, so if I go back and I look at the traffic, see if I have any, and I do. And so this is interesting because the traffic is going out of Ethernet 1, right? The traffic is actually going outbound on this interface, and it's actually hitting the pfSense box on this interface, and this is where we're doing the packet capture at. But the reported address that it says it's coming from is 10.10.2.24, which is the IP address of the workstation. And what's interesting about that is that we would expect that that traffic would be NATed, or masquerade, so to speak, and it's not. And the reason why, because the EdgeRouter was smart enough to know that it needed to pass that traffic to that network segment because it was going to the 10.10.20 network segment, but we didn't tell it to masquerade. So if we go over here to masquerade, I believe it's under NAT. Yep. So we have a policy here for masquerade to our wide area network, but if you notice, it only does it to ETH0. So it's basically saying anything that is a source address or destination address, we're going to masquerade as long as it's going to the interface ETH0. So obviously we need to do something about that because we're going to ETH1. So I'm just going to copy this particular NAT, source NAT, and I'm now going to actually change. I'm going to configure this. So now I'm going to configure this to go out of ETH1. So everything else can remain the same. We're going to do all protocols. Nothing else really needs to change. I think that we can, if we wanted to direct traffic, I actually think that we could possibly do it through here, do some more direction. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and change this. So now I've got two source NATs going out that's actually going to do the masquerading, the actual network address translation that we want it to do. So if I go back over here to my pfSense box and I'm going to hit start again, I'm going to go back and we're going to ping it again from WinTest3. This time, if you notice, I also got a reply. Last time I didn't get a reply. This time I got a reply. Okay, and the reason why is because the traffic was masqueraded, or was a network address translation took place, and the pfSense box knew what to do with the traffic. It then knew what the network segment is, because basically the pfSense box doesn't know anything about 1010.2. It only knows 1010.20 or 1010.10 or 198. It doesn't know anything about that network segment, so it didn't know what to do with the traffic. So if we go over here and hit stop, we're now going to see a request and response. And if you'll notice, the traffic has now been natted or masqueraded, and the coming from IP address is 1010.20.2 is what we would expect it to be. So that's why we got a good path out. So just to go over that again, we're here and we're trying to go outbound here to this box. This is what we just hit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be on this box, and I'm actually going to try to hit the 192. But I'm going to stay on this interface. Alright, so we got a good ping, we got a good response, but I believe that the traffic is now being routed out here because this is the only interface that knows about 192.168 because of the routes. So I go back to my pfSense box and I hit stop, and there shouldn't be any traffic, and there's not. There's no traffic. Everything went through LAN 1, the LAN 1 side. So again, so on the LAN 1 side, I see the ping and the response going out and back. Okay, so the reason why I think that is, obviously, as I said before, it's because of the routing for the traffic. We now have, I need to figure out how to do a static route if I want traffic to go from one place to the other. But you know, the more I'm thinking about it, the more this kind of makes sense about it. You know, the way it's got to have a default external destination. It may not necessarily know how to route the traffic if there's two of these sitting here. But what I found interesting though is if I went to Ubiquiti's site, there's a thing called one of the configurations that it had set up was policy-based routing. It talks about policy-based routing here in this overview. And so when you come down here, it talks about manually setting up a default route under the main routing table. So it looks like that maybe I just can't do it through the GUI, that I actually have to do it via command line. So looks like I can actually set up a default static route, and then maybe the idea is that you would then route. In this particular case, this particular configuration talks about taking a VLAN traffic and specifically sending VLAN traffic over a specific route on the way out. So it's talking about different tables. Like there's a main routing table, and then you can set up a table 11 and a table 12. So I think I'm going to play around with this a little. I know this video is getting a little bit long. This may be the last thing I do. And I'm sorry it has taken so long, but the last thing I want to talk about is once I play around with this and see if I can get something like this working, I do plan to do some load balancing and some failover with dual wide area networks, but that's going to be another video that I'm going to play around with. Right now I'm just going to try to maybe do some policy routing to see if I can get that to work. And if I can get that to work, I'll come back and I'll show how I got it working, and then I'll probably end this video. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and pause it. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm back. That was interesting. Just to give you a quick overview of what I did was I took these configuration guide and I just kind of modified it for what I was doing. I ran into this same problem when I tried to do a set protocol static route command to add another static route under the main IP routing table. That did not work. I got the same exact error message, but did it via the command line. So I started to read down through this, and it looks like that I could set up another route table and then basically assign that route table to a network segment or an interface. And so that's pretty much what I did. Was I set up a static route table, number 11, and I assigned it to this particular path right here in this network segment. So if you want to just pause and take a look at this this configuration guide, I did this command first. I skipped over number 4, didn't really need to deal with that. Since I wasn't dealing with VLANs, I kind of modified this to work for what I was doing, working with just an ETH5 interface. And I also set up a firewall policy for that particular, to be able to use that particular table. So these are the commands that I used. This first one is where I set up the static table, and I set up a static route, and my hop was 10.10.20.1. Then I set up the firewall rule set, and then the individual rules. Firewall rule set is called PBR_policy for policy-based routing. And then I set the interface 5 to use that policy. And then I committed it, and then I came down here and just took a look and see what make sure that I could do a show IP route table 11, and then it showed me the default was via 10.10.20.1. Alright, so then once I did all that, again on LAN 2, I went ahead and hit start for a packet capture. Wrong one. So then on Win, this should be WinTest3, Win10-TST3. And let's just go ahead and go out to Google. All the way to 8.8.8.8. We got a good reply back. And if you remember last time when I did that, it went through the other interface. When I did that last time, it came into the router and then went out to ETH0. This time I'm expecting it to go to out ETH1 because of the policy-based routing that I have set up. And so I'm actually capturing on that particular segment, and I don't have anything. And this just worked a minute ago. Interesting. Why would that have not worked? Gotta love it. Interesting. Nothing showed up in IP route table 11. And I'm almost positive that I did a save. So again, learning. This should have saved. I didn't reboot the box, but I did log off of my putty session. So maybe that triggered something that deleted all the things that I had set. But I thought that I had saved the configuration. That's interesting that it's gone. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again and run through this one more time. I swear it was working a minute ago. Hold on. Okay, so I went ahead and put all the commands back in. I think that I might have screwed up the commit :save, because I did a commit confirm before I did this, and it's possible that I did not do it correctly. I think you have to type yes and then confirm. Type in the word confirm, and I think I just typed in. I think you have to type in Y, the letter Y, and then confirm. And I didn't follow that process, and so when I did a save, it said it was nothing to save, and so I thought I had already done all that. But okay, so this time I did a commit save, and the commit save took. So let's try this again. Again, sorry about that. I'm on this interface here. I'm expecting all traffic to go through ETH1 now, through this network segment, and then out. And I'm collecting on that network segment. I'm going to ping Google, the outside world. And then when I go here and hit stop, I now have coming from 10.10.20.2 out to the outside world at 8.8.8. Okay, so let's just go ahead and change this to 1 to show you that 1 is still working as well. So again, I'm going to ping from this guy out, which we already knew was working, but I just want to re-verify that that is indeed working. And make sure I'm on WinTest 2, which I am. Stop. And now you can see I'm coming from 10.10.10.2 instead of 10.10.10.20. So the paths are now set. So basically the way I've got this set up is I've got all traffic coming from this network segment going through ETH0, and all traffic coming through this network segment going through ETH1. And they're following the paths on the way out. So now I've got dual wide area network set up and dedicated paths on my router. Now obviously this is not load balancing, this is not failover. You know, I don't have anything routing set up so that if one fails that's going to go to the other, or vice versa. Now that I've got this working, I think I am going to pursue a load balance fail scenario and see how I can get that to work. But This is just a very basic setup, and your mileage may vary, and there may be a lot of other things that you need to do with the firewall to make this work for whatever application you're trying to do. I've already got port forwarding set up, obviously with RDP allowing to come in on this side. So I've got this pretty much segregated between these two different segments. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video for now. This has been a quite long one, and if you have any comments, go ahead and leave them below. Please subscribe to my channel. I plan to do more of this. And if you have any comments or you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. Thanks.